We have arrived in Queenstown. Beautiful scenery that has welcomed us to Queenstown. And this is the site of the Gracelanders going down under. And we've had a good morning, a tremendous breakfast. We're very impressed with Sam and his attitude. I wish I had a daughter that was looking to meet someone. He seems like he'd be... This is Norm, our bus commentator. There's Rich Higdon there. There's Deb, checking her email. She's got some things going on. Larry Phillips has survived. Hey, that was some, Terry, that was some landing. Would you describe it to the people?
It was a little bit bumpy, but we kept thinking they did it every day. They had to do it again.
Yeah. Ron, what'd you think?
I thought the bottom left, the plane, yeah.
Yes.
Went down.
Yeah, we had a number of people that had to go to the laboratory and clear out their pants after that. There's my wife, Evelyn. And Evelyn and I have some brand new news.
Yes.
We have a grandson. And they say he came out talking.
I cannot believe that.
There's Fred Elliott. He and Myra are having a good day. Look at the mountains. Look at over there. And look at over there. Everybody's impressed with the scenery. Look at up there. What's that? I mean, come on.
And welcome to the mainland. All right? Definitely the mainland. And we know that because the Maori mythology tells us that. If you want to believe Maori mythology. Because the South Island was the canoe that Maori was sitting in. Stewart Island further to the south is the anchor. And so he fished up the North Island. And they just don't like that. Sometimes we think we should cut the cables. The power cable connects the North and South Islands to transmit power up there. So we'll just cut the cable, you can clear off. Never mind. So we're off anyway. So I'm going to hand over to Sam. We're going to head into Arrowtown, an old gold mining town. But just to give you a heads up for tomorrow for Milford, it is on your itinerary. It is a 7:45 departure. That has changed because if we leave at 7:45, we're going. Do you understand the term "going like a cut cat"?
Yes.
That's what we'll be doing. We won't do that. We'll go earlier. We have a leisurely trip over to Tianao and then a leisurely trip into Milford. And as long as we're there by 1:45, we'll be fine. And we'll do a few photo stops in that along the way. So breakfast tomorrow morning is at 6:15, 6:30. And we're away 7.
And the first thing that I can see if I look out on the left is a little hill called Deer Park Heights. And are there any Lord of the Rings fans in here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one or two quiet ones up the back who didn't want to call out and just stuck their hands up. Cool, I saw you. All right. I'm encouraging you. I see what's happened here. Alrighty, so when Peter Jackson was filming Lord of the Rings, he did it all over this area, all around Queenstown. And in particular, he was filming up the top of Deer Park Heights, this kind of gold rock in front of us. And as he was filming, he looked in the back of the film, and all he could see was this big range of mountains behind us. Now, we call those mountains the Remarkables, and the reason we call them the Remarkables is because they run directly north to south, and there's only one other mountain range in the world that does that, and that's the Rockies. So the surveyor, there we can see them better on the left now, the surveyor who saw those mountains, he thought that was remarkable, let's call them that.
What is it called again?
The Remarkables. Now, if you're Peter Jackson and you're filming Lord of the Rings, you're meant to be in Middle Earth, not in Queenstown. And if you can see the Remarkables in the back of the film shot, where are you? You're in Queenstown. So to Peter Jackson, they were called the Removables. And he made a deliberate point of being very cunning with his camera angles so that you couldn't see where you were. Now there was one little exception to his trying to make you not think you were in Queenstown, and that was a plant called the Matagauri, which I don't think we'll see today. but you might see it somewhere along your travels. And Matagari is a Maori name for a plant, and it means dog's teeth. So you can imagine what a plant called dog's teeth looks like. It's got great big needles on it, big thorns about 1 inch long, very tiny leaves. In fact, the leaves are so small that the needles sometimes have to turn green so that they can photosynthesize and produce more food for the plant. But Peter Jackson thought these are the sorts of things that would grow where orcs live. And so while he made his best to make sure you couldn't see any plants or any obvious scenery from New Zealand, when it came to the Matagari, he made a point of including those in the films. That's a bit of a distraction. We're here, we should be talking about Queenstown, shouldn't we? So we can't see it now, we're going to see it later on. There's a great big lake that sits in front of Queenstown, Lake Whakatipu or Queenstown Lake. It's about 70-80 kilometres long, which in miles is divided by 1.6, about 40 miles somewhere there from end to end. So it's a really, really long lake. It's the longest lake in New Zealand, and it's really deep as well. It's about 400 metres deep, which is, what's that, 200, no, you times it by 4, about 1,200, exactly, 1,200 foot deep, and that means the bottom 300 feet is actually below sea level of that lake. And the reason it's so deep though is because it's carved out by glaciers during the ice ages. So carved all through this area. And as we get past these patch of trees ahead of us, you might see that there's a horizontal kind of line on the hill out in front of us. Now that horizontal line you can see, that's a lateral moraine. Lateral moraine. And moraine is a fancy French word for rocks that have been pushed around by a glacier. And that moraine there, left behind in the ice ages, and roughly the height of that moraine, it was the height of the lake up until about 16 or 18,000 years ago, when we had a massive earthquake, and that earthquake changed the layout of all the land through here and dropped the height of the lake probably by about 300 feet to its present level. But if you see that line up on the hill, sorry if you're at the back, it's probably a bit tricky to see, you can imagine we would all be well and truly underwater until that earthquake hit. But so big was that earthquake that it changed the path of the rivers. It opened up a river called the Kawerau, and that Kawerau River flows out now as the main outlet for the Queenstown Lake, and takes the water out to another river, the Clutha Mata'o, and eventually out to sea. Some sheep and lambs. It's a wonderful time to come to New Zealand, to be here in the spring when you've got all the new lambs, and you'll probably see baby calves, maybe some baby deer tomorrow on your trip down to Milford. You never know. Some ducklings as well could be dotted around. So lovely, lovely time to be here. This beautiful flowering plant you can see on the left with the yellow flowers is called gorse. It comes from Scotland and it's horrible. No. So the original, the Scottish settlers, when they arrived, or the British as well, they introduced this gorse for fencing, because it's got big needles on, so they'll build a fence with that to keep the livestock contained within their pens. But like many things, it's come across to New Zealand, and with the absence of anything that can eat it or challenge it at good growing conditions, it's just gone crazy throughout the country. So keep an eye out for that. But its one saving grace is that it also protects little plants that grow underneath it. So because it's got those big needles, things like rabbits and sheep and deer, they'll all stay away from it. And so if you've got a little native tree growing underneath and growing very, very slowly, as our native trees are prone to do, then they're a little bit protected until they can get a bit taller and a bit stronger. And that means that it can be quite useful for establishing or re-establishing native forest in the areas. And if you look up on the right, we can't quite see it yet, but there's a road going up the side of those remarkable hills, and that takes you up to the remarkable ski field, which is one of 5 ski fields we've got in this area. And as we get to the top of this hill, if you have a look on the left, you'll probably see Coronet Peak, where we're headed we'll head a bit closer to that one later on as well. If you keep following this road, eventually you end up at Cadrona, Snow Farm, and Treble Cone, some of the other ski facilities, which as of Sunday, Remarkables just finished their season. Not sure, is Cadrona still open?
No, they're all closed.
That's all closed now?
Yeah, they're all closed.
So, there you go. Just missed the ski season. Once that snow starts to melt off, you'll start to see more and more mountain bikers getting out and using the tracks and the hills around this area, particularly on Coronet Peak, and particularly using the gondola, which I know some of you are going up on Saturday, I think it is. So it's a little bit of a cyclist's mecca in the summertime here. And cyclists, rock climbers, all sorts of hikers, trampers, all sorts of enthusiasts will start coming here in the summertime. But I got distracted. I was talking about the history, wasn't I? So we had the Ice Age, we had the earthquake. The next thing that the next significant thing that happened through here was that the Maori people arrived into New Zealand. And, well, I guess then they were the Polynesian people. They came down on their waka in their canoe from the islands north of here and started to settle throughout New Zealand. As they went, they were hunting the moa, which is a giant flightless bird, bigger than an emu or an ostrich, 2 to 3 meters, about 10 foot tall. 10 foot tall, huge animals. And these animals kind of had a bit of the rule of the roost, excuse the pun, until the Maori arrived, and the Maori started to burn patches of the forest of our native trees to chase the moa out and trap them at the far edge. And eventually they actually hunted the moa to extinction, but also burnt off a lot of New Zealand's native forest. But they would have also come up here to Queenstown. In particular, they would have been looking for eels in the waterways, and they came here on their way to the west coast, and they were looking for jadestone or punamu, greenstone. And that's well worth remembering, because when we get into Arrowtown, there are a few shops that do have punamu or greenstone, jadestone there. And that was treasured by the Maori. It's a very strong stone. They could use it for all sorts of weapons and trading. Things like a patu, which is sort of a small axe-like weapon that they could make out of it. So very, very important for them. But one thing they weren't interested in was gold. And it was in the 1870s, 1872, just after the first European settlers started to arrive in this area a few years earlier, that they discovered gold in the Arrow and Shotover rivers, which the Arrow River is just on the back of Arrowtown, and so hence we had a massive gold rush in this area. But just before the gold rush, we had two farmers who came over here. They were William Rees and Henry von Tonzelman. And they did the only thing you can do when you're trying to decide who gets to farm where. They flipped a coin. And that's, well, as far as I know, that's true. Norm, is that true?
Yep.
Norm says it's true.
Must be
And Norm
so.
said I'm not allowed to tell you any bullshit today, so he says it's true. There you go. So they flipped a coin, and William Rees, well, he came out on top. He got to farm in Queenstown, and Henry von Tonzelman, he went across the other side of the lake to Walter Peak, Mount Nicholas, and that is where the Earnslaw goes to. So some of you I know are booked on the Earnslaw trip on Saturday as well. You'll be going across to Henry von Tonzelman's land. Now this on the left, this is Lake Hayes. Have a little look out as you go. You never know, there might be a few little birds out there or that. There's a little bit of wind, so I suspect they're hiding in the trees. And in particular, one of the birds I'm looking for on this lake is called the crested grebe, and they are an endangered bird. And one of the quirky things about crested grebes, they can't walk very well, and so they never want to leave the water. And that means that they like to nest on rafts. And we had a little problem in Queenstown because the crested grebes were looking for rafts on Lake Whakatipu, and the only raft they could find was the water taxi. and they started to build a nest on the back of that. And because they're a native endangered bird, do you think you're allowed to move them? No. Of course you're not. So they had to carefully keep sweeping the nest until the grebe realised it wasn't a good place for a grebe to nest. And now we've built some little rafts for them. And when we sprint through Queenstown later on today, Jenny or I might try and show you those rafts, and if things go really well, maybe we can show you the endangered grebes as well. Wineries, many wineries in this area, yeah. We've got Knockies, Mallet and Stonewood on the right, Amosfield coming up ahead of us, Akarua as well.
Kim Crawford.
Kim Crawford. Does Kim have a winery in this area?
No, I think they're mainly Marlborough.
Maybe Marlborough, further north. But Graham Norton, his wines come from this region as well.
Christmas trees are turned.
And Sam Neal's 2 paddocks, which he's actually just sold the first paddock. He's out in Gippsland Valley. There's about 13 wineries in this Gippsland area, and it's very well known if you are having a tipple while you're here. Central Otago, that's where we are now, Central Otago Pinot Noir. And the reason that the Pinots do really well and what you can expect is that we have big fluctuations in the temperature here. So in the winter, might be down in the negative temperatures, might be down -5 or so. What's that? Double at -10, about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the summer, perhaps getting up to 30, 60, getting up to about 92 in those wine regions. So big changes in flavours. And the thing that gives a great lots and lots of flavour is if the vines are really stressed. And so having these big changes in flavour, changes in temperature, having these fast draining soils, etc., means that the vines are very stressed, and so you can expect from a local Pinot Noir, you can expect to have very strong, punchy flavours. Okay, so have a look out for that if you're trying something or wanting to try something very local to this particular region. Of course, we have the Marlborough region as well, where the Sauvignon Blanc grapes do very well, but we also produce all your other favourites, Chardonnays, etc. as well. So Lake Hayes, and then we're going to start seeing some golf courses all around us, and Jenny knows about those golf courses. She lives on one of them. But one of them is run or privately owned by Michael Hill, who's a local jeweller, or a New Zealand-based jeweller. He built a golf course coming up here that'll be on our right-hand side in a few minutes. It's called The Hills, and it hosts the New Zealand Open. And we're going to see Millbrook coming up on our left shortly after that as well. They've got 18 or 36 holes now. 36. They finished building the second set of 18 up there. Another one of the wineries, Salador's there, Akarua. And then in Arrowtown as well, you also have the Arrowtown Golf Course. So you've got four rounds of 18 you can play within about a 5-minute drive of Arrowtown. So a bit of a golfer's mecca. And if you look a bit further throughout Queenstown, I can probably find you another 4 or 5 golf courses as well. Which for a town of about 20 or 30,000 people, that's a lot of golf courses. We've got distracted again. Alright, so William Rees, Henry von Tunzelman were the first farmers in this area, and then a couple of years after they started farming, we started to find gold, and the first person who found gold was a local Maori who worked for William Rees, and his name was Jack Tiwa. And Jack Tiwa found this bit of gold, and he showed it to his boss, William Rees, and his boss said, "Don't you tell anyone you found this, because if we tell anyone, we're going to have a gold rush on our hands." And a couple of years later, we did indeed. We had a guy, William Fox, who found more gold in Arrowtown. And actually, Arrowtown was originally called Fox's Town after him, but it later changed the name and became known as Arrowtown. And then we had a couple of guys, William Arthur and Harry Redfern, who discovered gold in the Shonover area. Now, William Fox became a bit of an icon in this area. If you wanted to mine in the Arrow River, it usually meant you had to give a share of your findings to him. So he did very well out of it. William Rees, realising there was a gold rush on his hands, he got out of the farm and he built Queen's Arms Hotel, which is now Icards on the waterfront, which, if I remember, I'll show you in our walking trip later this afternoon. And we had about 9,000 people come from Australia. There was a whole bunch came from China, and a whole lot of people came from Europe in this massive rush of gold miners. And the population of Queenstown and the area got up to about 20,000 people in the 1870s. And with that, of course, we developed the infrastructure. We started building, well, it was mostly bars and brothels in Arrowtown. So we're going to go out and see some of those today. No, they've mostly all been repurposed from that now. But a lot of the buildings, and that's why Arrowtown is so lovely to come and visit, because it does look like something, it's been preserved from the 1860s. So it's a beautiful old town, and our first stop in Arrowtown. Initially, everybody liked to live really, really close to town. And nowadays we live out towards here in Arrowtown, lots of more expensive houses, a bit more land for each house out this way, but also out past the airport in all different directions. And just in the paper this week, they're talking about new subdivisions in the areas that we've already driven past, Lake Hayes in particular, another 700 homes or something like that they want to shove in there. So in Queenstown, there are two problems. One is a labour shortage and the other one is a housing shortage. And it used to be pre-COVID that if you went and applied for a job, the first question you got asked in your job interview was, have you got somewhere to live? And we're starting to see that again, despite having less people living in town. I think more properties are being converted into use for Airbnb, more properties lived in by owners, or people got used to, during COVID, they might have paid a little bit less rent, the landlord might have been kind, and so they got used to having a spare room or a guest room, and they don't quite want to give that up. And so we're finding that now we're fast approaching another housing shortage. Hopefully, the houses will keep getting built, and eventually things will become a little bit easier to live in here. And as we come around the corner here, you'll see some of the little old miners' cottages, and these were the European miners. And if you see that number 53, the grey one there, that sold last year. That sold for $1.85 million. That tiny little house there. I'll wander you over and see. You can have a little look at that one, and we can see just how small it is. But 1.85. That's New Zealand dollars. Sorry, what's that in American? It's probably about $1 million on the nose, or slightly more. You can see the little houses all along here, all from that era, all from that period.
Fred. What?
1860s. So in the 1980s, and I should probably tell everyone this, but in the 1980s we started to get jet boating, we got bungee jumping after AJ Hackett jumped off the Eiffel Tower, we had ski fields, we had hiking, climbing, cycling, and things have just gone crazy. They're always complaining, farmers are always complaining, but maybe they're a bit quiet like it is here back home. But you know, it used to be every day, and now it's kind of every second day, and now you're kind of like,
Right. Yeah. I think we still have it every day, but it's
still which is Baker's, the building on the end. Yeah, that was the bank. Yeah. Now I'm going to take you into this. I think it's this big pillars.
And then somebody hard at work trying to paint them to keep them alive.
The wee basket there was good enough to pass.
First thing.
Only notes.
No, only notes, yeah. It's a big pocket.
I kind of feel like something out of the West.
I had someone get a cake out of that.
Cowboys and things down there. Bringing the boat.
Found some gold in them air hills, and I'm gonna get it. What do you have there?
Yes.
Can I see that gold? Would you bite it and see if it's real? Don't do that. Very good.
Can I? He's expensive. He's lovely. Come on, I'll just keep it up. Not meant to be. Anyway, she was very helpful. So did you try something maybe? May I have a bite? Yeah, they have
I think it's too big for a red bud.
You know as well as I will, it's not from here. So I was just saying, basically all the trees we can see are all introduced specimens. Lots of poplar will be overrun by introduced trees that grow a lot faster.
the most interesting.
Okay.
I think I've got a picture of one. Well, what are they growing?
You got to be careful. There's some bushes that
Trying so hard to get them.
things like that. You look and you go, yeah, but they've had to replace the roof and the guttering and all the boards and the studs. But it's the oldest. Yeah.
This is Elam's store.
Yeah, because I was.
He cut us in half.
I was a cut. He cut us in half.
Janet Balo has looked over at the shanty.
And for it to last this long, it's really good stuff.
I hate to see what I look at.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of maintenance.
Alright, leave this way.
Get a picture.
She's gonna put you.
Doug.
He's black.
It's pretty up there, hun?
I mean, rocks.
I want to see the river. I want to see the Arrow River.
This walking track was about an hour's loop track up and back, so probably is good just to make our way back up now. Has someone gone ahead, have they?
No.
No.
Blown around by the wind, and a pine cone it can stay in the ground for 20 years. Well, there's some of those Mattagari trees I said you wouldn't see. You can see them on the left. You might be able to make out some of the big spiky needles on some of these brown-green bushes on our left-hand side. But a pine cone, 20 years it can stay in the ground and it still produce a tree. And they grow very fast and they will outcompete our native trees. So if we don't do something, we lose what is left of our native forests around the country, and we're particularly aware of it in Queenstown. And we lost a lot of our native forest. As I said, this would have all been beech forest prior to people arriving and bringing with them their rats and everything else, but also they burnt so much of the forest. And so we do see patches of native forest, particularly coming out of valleys, where a few trees might have survived. The fire jumped over them, maybe there was a bit more moisture, or the wind didn't blow the embers down into the valleys. So we see, if we get a good angle, we might see some patches of beech forest, and you might be able to see how the invasive species are just taking over. But if you look up on the right-hand side, you'll see some of the spray work there. And if you go up the gondola tomorrow and you're going up there for dinner, you do some of the walking tracks, you might notice above there some little signs with family names and business names on them on different plots of land. And those are the families or the businesses who are looking after those plots. And they'll go up there 1 or 2 times a year, they'll take a pair of tree loppers and they'll just cut down any little pine seedlings or conifer seedlings that are starting to grow. If they're small enough, they'll pull them out, and that way hopefully they'll protect those patches of land over the next number of years and keep them relatively free from the wild trees. And you never know, we might actually get on top of these trees at some stage. some ko-fi trees on our left. You might just make out the yellow flowers. Those trees have just finished flowering, and the flowers are starting to drop off, but beautiful bright yellow flowers called the ko-fi, and that is the same. The Maori word for yellow is ko-fi as well, so easy to see how they got the name. And the ski bus team there cleaning the buses after the busy winter season has just finished. I only comment on that because I do drive for them as well, so it's good to see someone else doing the hard work. And I get to spend the day with you guys. And on our right, you'll see the gondola just coming into our view, and I know about 20 of you are headed up there tomorrow. I think even for dinner, is it?
Yes.
Saturday. No, Milford tomorrow. Saturday, head up the gondola. So enjoy that, and you can see where they're cutting down a whole lot of the trees either side of the gondola. That's not because they want to get rid of the trees because they're a pest. That's because they want to build a new gondola. So you're very brave going up the old gondola. I'm sure it's fine. But you will also see people go. We're nervous now. No, you'll also see people going up there with their bikes attached as well and coming down some of the cycle trails in that area. So very popular with the locals. As soon as it hits 5 o'clock, suddenly you see bikes all through the streets here, people heading up to that hill and the other trails to get a ride in the evening sunlight after work. I think that's one of the other lovely things about living here in Queenstown is you can just do that after work, go for a mountain bike ride. You know, you might be working here in the middle of town and then straight above you, you can go for a bike ride, or you can drive up to Coronet Peak in about 20-30 minutes and go for a ski, go up there for a couple of hours, come back down. You can be at work by 10 o'clock, you know, negotiate with the boss for a late start. And so the people who live in Queenstown, they love getting out, doing outdoor activities. All that sort of thing attracts a huge number of people from all around the world. And we have such a diverse community here in Queenstown that activities that normally you wouldn't have unless you're in a far bigger city, we do have here. And I'll give you some examples of that. We've got Gaelic football teams, we've got ice hockey teams, we've got salsa dancing in the pubs, we've got Brazilian capoeira, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all of these different things that, you know, you might need a city of 1 million people to have a Gaelic football team. But here with just sort of 30,000 people, we can have a whole lot of these things from around the world because we've got such a multicultural area. And, you know, the South Island, you know, sort of before the last sort of 30, 40 years, it was very, for want of a better word, it was very white. And we only had, you know, the most diversity we had from around the world was a lot of Chinese people had stayed from the gold mining. Now on the left, this is the biggest icon in Queenstown. This is Fergburger, and we'll take you past there this afternoon.
I've heard about it.
Fergburger, yeah, many people come here just to have a Fergburger. It's got an absolute reputation for burgers, and one of the parts of Fergburger that's important is that you have to line up for your burger. And it is completely normal to line up for 45 minutes or an hour, even longer, for a Fergburger. So tonight, if you're looking for a dinner option and all of the restaurants can't take your bookings, that is definitely one that you could try and should try. Often better to try and go outside of a normal meal time. Maybe the line will be a bit shorter. If you time it really well, maybe you can ring an order through and then go down and pick it up. But as soon as they get busy, they can't do that. And it's very cunning marketing on their behalf, because instead of increasing their capacity, they built a bakery and a bar next to it so that people can spend money in different ways, and they keep the line because the line is their brand. And we're going to get dropped off shortly somewhere here along the waterfront, and we can go for a little bit of a walk through the town.
I'm coming. This is Queenstown. This is Queenstown.
Three years to make it?
Salmon no. Wow. Oh yeah. Salmon no more about that line. Yep. Yeah, you'll see where the bungee jump first started.
We will see that. That's right.
He bungee jumped once.
Yeah, you'll definitely see it.
You gotta get a picture of the bracelet structure.
Guys, go past me.
I would just hole up in a bench.
Here's our hotel in Queenstown, the Millennium. Looks like a nice place. We walked all the way up. And the lake is right down there.
The second half of the journey begins is from Tiana to Milford Sound. That's 119 kilometres in length. Now I'm not sure the miles, whether you're getting used to kilometres, which is used in Australia and also in New Zealand, but probably about 85 miles. And then from there we make our way through towards Milford Sound, and we'll take a number of photo stops along the way as well. Looked up the forecast last night for Milford, and we're going to have clear blue skies.
Thank you, Norm.
Unbelievable. And when you consider that about 3 years ago they had a record rainfall, 9 metres, just over 30 feet of rain, 30 and a half feet of rain a year, which makes it one of the most wettest places that is lived in the world, if not the wettest, because there's certainly some impressive figures come out of Milford Sound as far as the rain is concerned. To say it rains for 365 days of the year, well, that's just bunkum. Quite frankly, it's just not true, because I've been in there and you're going to experience that today. Absolutely brilliantly clear skies, but say as an average, it rains about 200 odd days a year. But when it does rain, it rains intensely, and I'll talk more about that later on. Just travelling along Frankton Arm here, which is the only appendage to Lake Wakatipu. Long skinny lake, around 80 kilometres in length, between 5 and 7 kilometres at its widest point. And just over 360 odd feet deep. I probably, I do quote distances and heights and that mainly in feet, because that's what I'm used to. I'm one of those ones that got caught in the middle, metric and feet. And I think the more feet you got, the more impressive it sounds. It's about 3,000 metres. Doesn't sound very impressive, does it? But when you say 9,000 feet,
Right.
it sounds a lot more impressive. So I'm used to quoting heights and feet, and it is generally it's an approximation. It's not exact, because one of the factors that it depends.
We are in the community of Tianao. Tianao. Cute little community. A lot of shops. Cute little community. Tianao. This is Tianao, or something like that. One of the most incredible shots we've seen. Heading to Milford Sound, just off the highway. Here's our bus, and this is where we came from. Look at this spectacular skyline. Just utterly amazing. New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the Mirror Lake section, and we're going to be walking down this way to what was called a boardwalk area, and we're going to do so. I don't know what exactly awaits me down here. But, oh wow, this is kind of neat. Well,
That's a keeper.
Bubbling up or something out here.
Mirror Lakes.
Mirror Lakes.
See the mountains
You can see.
reflecting in the lakes.
Yes.
We can get more mountains in this way.
Okay.
One of the couples that has really been behaving well. Ron Carter, the official photographer of the group. There's Janet Balo. And we're peering down the waterway of the Mirror Lakes. I can't say that I really see the mountains in them.
You can't? Look. Look down there.
What do you-
Evelyn, would you like a picture together?
We are not in that mood.
Okay, single take.
I'm liking it. Janet, there's the mirror. Right there.
Oh, they're having a picture. That's the best spot.
This is incredible now. At first I didn't see it, but now I see the reflection. There's the reflection.
That is absolutely.
That is neat. Doug McAllister, who is very proud of his photography skills, taking a shot of the Mirror Lakes.
But I'm disappointed we didn't see one bird.
There was one in the little.
A duck. I saw a duck in the Yeah, I saw a duck at the very beginning. Oh, sorry. Trying to get the.
Didn't quite know why the bus commentator was taking us here, but didn't take long. Jack, what'd you think of that?
Oh, this is great.
We're having a good trip.
It's very refreshing here.
Yes, very good.
Very refreshing.
Very refreshing. There's Larry Hart. There's Mel Crowley and his beloved. Here's the path out. Mark has not been impressed with the trip so far, but I think this stop, I think they even have trees growing out.
I think you're projecting, Paul.
I am. I do a lot of that. Look at that tree going up there.
A long weekend. I think they work every second weekend. So this is their weekend off, wherever they're going back to their home base. And they'll come back in and start work again about Monday lunchtime, thereabouts. And then do another 2-week spell.
What is this animal?
Oh, look out behind us.
He's trying to get out.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just magnificent rocks, mountains, tourists. Look at in the distance.
That was just absolutely
There's the Graceland team.
Posing. Are you posing? Oh, wow. Look at the red on its wings.
He didn't go very far. A lot of tourists making the stop. I think we're all catching the same ship.
So it's basically one-way tunnel?
This is the
At the
tunnel?
moment it's one way. It has been two-way in the past, but generally accepted as one way. As traffic increased in here, they put in a couple of passing bays for buses. But then traffic just got too great. People couldn't figure out where the edge of their vehicle was, and so there was issues. So they made it into controlled by traffic lights.
Again, the Hermit Tunnel? Hermit?
Homer.
Herma.
H-O-M-E-R.
Oh, Homer.
Homer.
Oh, Homer Tunnel. A lot different than the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, Larry.
Yes, it is. 1.2 kilometers?
Uh-huh.
How long is the tunnel? 1.2 kilometers?
Starts off at just above 3,000 feet up there and drops down to about 2,600, I think it is, down at the other end. Naturally aspirated, and that was deliberate, this grade, because they knew that hot air rises, cold air sinks, so you get a natural cleaning of the tunnel. As the cold air sinks down through here, if we were to stop and stand out in the tunnel, we'd actually feel a breeze blowing down as the cold air sinks and cleans the tunnel out. And you can see there's definitely always light at the end of the tunnel. Because these centre lights are only a recent addition, about the last 15 years. Rather takes away the mystique. Well, the authorities believe that we should have enough nous amongst ourselves as drivers that are doing this road on a regular basis to know where the problem areas are, and it's mainly for cars that are coming down. But I have seen some buses driven by non-New Zealanders, and we don't stop there anymore because there's no bridges for the walk. And then he came out, going to stay with us all day. It was fine weather. Temperature this afternoon will be around the 12-degree mark.
This is where we will get on the Mariner, star ship of the fleet. There it is, right there. Kind of hard not to get great footage here. Shooting in 4K. There's the Graceland group preparing to get on. Wait a minute. Let me get a shot here.
To ask other mate just sit back, relax and enjoy.
Nope.
Larry and Linda needed this trip. They've been struggling with some issues personal. But this trip has really... Ryan Weberg's laughing, but he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
It's been 3 years, man. Still waiting on my pie.
The neighborhood. Doug McAllister and Diane are here.
Now once again everyone, so I want to kick things off by talking a little bit boundary of the national park. We have 14 fields. Number down, 30 of my smallest fields at 14 kilometres.
She's giving good information, but I'm not getting it.
I would think that wouldn't happen in the afternoon. I think it would stop at night.
Yeah.
This is Copper Point. Copper Point. This is Copper Point. This is where it's the most narrow.
One on the left is Pixie Falls, falling from a height of 90 meters. Now on the right hand side we have Fairy Falls, falling at a
We are directly under the waterfall. Oh, there's a rainbow. Oh my gosh.
You just have to read about it and decide when you want to go. And we went, I think it was in August. So it wasn't that cold yet, we still had
Oh, look at him. These would be dolphin. Oh my goodness. This is absolutely unbelievable.
Now when we do end up going a little bit faster, what they tend to do is ride the pressure wave. Now when they are riding the pressure wave, they don't have to move their bodies anymore, meaning that they are just going to ride to the next destination.
You see it? There, over there, on the left, There, do you see the dolphins over here?
They're absolutely amazing creatures, caught in a very tight pod. So in my opinion, what they're doing right now is off for a bit of a hunt. You can see up ahead of us there is a lot more thrashing around going on.
Oh, blood. Look at that one on his back. Oh.
Oh, look at him go. He's swimming upside down in a circle.
Oh my God. Oh, look at
They
that.
definitely obviously know we're watching, they are complete show-offs.